Is there any truth to this? I was at WCW at the time, and Dusty had the book. And I don't know if you know this or not, that when Dusty was going to make, what was it, Big Tugboat Taylor? Fred?
Fred Ott.
Yeah, Fred Ott. He was going to make him the Shockmaster. And then they did the deal on was it the pay-per-view or was it television?
Flash, it was even worse. It was live and free on TV where everybody could see.
Yeah, live, free on TV. And then, anyway, Shockmaster, whatever happens, he trips and falls through the wall and blows the big, unveiling of his character. But was it Ole Anderson indeed the voice of the Shockmaster?
Well, he may have been. I know he was the voice of the Black Scorpion for all that time, because that was one of the more ill thought out angles where they had a Black Scorpion that they were going to unveil, and they actually didn't know who the Black Scorpion was going to be from one moment to the next. But the story that I got, I had left by then, but the story that I got was that the Shockmaster with that helmet on and that elaborate outfit was going to burst through the wall on that segment and just make a big entrance. And they made the wall breakaway, but what they didn't do, didn't tell Shockmaster or anybody else after the run through, there was an actual solid board that was about a foot off the ground that they had reinforced the wall with, and he could have stepped over it had he known. But since he didn't know, he busted through the breakaway wall, but the board that was a foot off the ground tripped him like a tripwire, a jungle booby trap, and he goes face first, and his helmet rolls off, and he falls on his ass. And I think that was a Flair for the Gold, the Flair interview segment, and wasn't it Arn that you could hear? It may have been Arn, but somebody in the background was going, he goddamn fell on his ass.
That was Davy Boy. The microphone was picking up Davy Boy. He fell flat on his ass. He fell flat on his fucking ass. And then you can hear Sid, oh, God. And then Sid starts over-talking him, and then it's a total verbal clusterfuck because they're out of sync, but they're continuing to go forward. It's live television. I remember it going down. I was there. I remember when I got back. I mean, I've watched that clip on YouTube so many times. It's probably, in my opinion, it's the funniest thing that I've ever seen on a wrestling program.
Yeah, and boy, you talk about people try to force comedy in wrestling, but in this case, it was very unintentional, and that's the best comedy sometimes. But organic comedy is the best. But that was certainly not planned. But yeah, I remember, as a matter of fact, now that you mentioned it, was Davy Boy, because I was doing the accent and attributing it to Arn. But oh my God, he fell on his fucking ass.
It was Davy with that thick Manchester accent. Here, out of all the stuff that you've done, I mean, you've been on the road for damn ever. With obviously with all the stuff that you've done with WWE, WCW, NWA, Smoky Mountain, blah 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 blah. What's some of the most fucked up shit you've seen, Jim? Just in the name of just fans doing stuff, shit going wrong in the ring. Just total. Give me some clusterfuck stories.
Oh my God, I can tell you right off the top of my head, Little Rock, Arkansas, one night, Mid-South Wrestling. It's Barton Coliseum. It's the midnight in the rock and roll. And at this point,
you guys got to be on fire, right? And
we're on fire.
Rock and roll.
It's sold out, and we go to the ring first, and here comes the rock and roll. And they bring the lights down, and they hit the Van Halen music. They were using Jump at the time as they're into, because that was the hot song. And they drop the lights and they put a spotlight on the stage. So here comes, out of the Barton Coliseum locker rooms, you come up these stairs onto this big stage, and that at the end of the arena, and then you come off the end of the stage, down the stairs and down the middle aisle to the ring. Well, here comes Ricky and Robert, and the shrieks from the teeny boppers are deafening, and the spotlight is playing all over it, and the people are going crazy. And Hoot Gibson, Robert Gibson, Punky and Hoot, for everybody. If you don't know who Punky and Hoot are, you're not involved in the wrestling business. Ricky's Punky and Robert's Hoot. And they come up. Hoot had his issues sometimes with stepping places he shouldn't step. So they come up on this stage, and they're in the spotlight, and the people are going crazy. But, of course, the spotlight in their eyes, the only light in the arena, they can't really see. So they're going on, we need to move forward. That's the only thing they knew. Well, we're watching in the ring, me and Bob Eaton and Dennis Condrey, and Ricky comes to the front of the stage and starts coming down those stairs to come down the middle aisle. And Hoot, the spotlight got in his eyes, and it was a T-shaped stage. And he walked off the corner of the stage, not being able to see, and just dropped out of sight. Just complete, like an elevator had just taken him down and fell off the front of the stage. And then you see a hand come up and boom. And oh my God, Hoot's falling again. There was another time, the Heavenly Bodies in Smoky Mountain Wrestling were working with Doug and Mike Furness. Now, Doug Furness was a UT football star, was the legitimately set world strongman records.
Unbelievable talent.
His brother,
at the University of Tennessee.
Yep. His brother, Mike, was also a football player at UT, but did not get all of the athletic genes of the Furness family.
Right.
So Doug had called us and said, hey, my brother Mike wants to get into wrestling, and if you guys will train him, I'll come out, because he was living in California at the time. I'll come out and make the Christmas week shows for you, because Christmas was always a huge time for wrestling. So we trained Mike for, 6 or 8 weeks. And then finally it came, we shot the angle where Mike Furness debuted in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but the Heavenly Bodies got on him and beat him up. And here comes Doug, and we're going to have the tag match Christmas night. I believe it was 1993 in Knoxville, Heavenly Bodies and the Furness brothers. And Doug, being the experienced veteran, he said, I'll sell and I'll give Mike the tag, right? So he sold his ass off for the Heavenly Bodies for like 10 minutes or so, and finally he hits that hot tag to Mike Furness, and Mike was so excited, and there's 2,500 to 3,000 people in his hometown. They just blew. Oh, my God, here comes Mike, and Tom Pritchard is in the ring, and Mike stepped through the ropes and ran at Tom and jumped and hit him with a flying clothesline. Boom! And Tom takes a big bump, and Mike, he ran so hard and so fast, when he leaped up in the air and hit that clothesline, he landed and kept rolling and rolled right out of the other side of the ring. So he literally was in the ring for 3 seconds. He leaped up, hit the clothesline, landed, and rolled out to the floor. And there's Jimmy Del Rey going, I'm ready to feed, and there wasn't nobody to feed for. And Tom gets up, and then all of a sudden you see a hand from the other side of the ring. Mike, but so the people went, yeah! Oh. Much like Dutch Mantell one time in Tupelo, Mississippi. Dutch was the only, when I was younger, I was very fast. And Dutch was the only baby face that could catch me in the Memphis territory. He was quicker than a hiccup, boy. And Dutch, he would chase me around the ring and just wear me out. Like I was about to turn into butter, and finally he'd catch me and he'd give me an ass bump or do whatever the fuck. Well, in Tupelo, Mississippi, the old sports arena down there used to be an auto body shop, and there was still grease on the floor, and it had rained that night, and everybody brought the water in. And I had rubber treaded soles on my dress shoes because I didn't want to bust my ass, on the slick concrete arenas. Well, I saw him about to slide out, and I start flat-footing it around the ring to get ahead of him. And as he slides out under the rope to chase me, and I start going around the ring kind of flat-footed, running as fast as I could, I got halfway around the ring and looked around, and Dutch wasn't behind me. And I looked out, and I saw a hand coming up. It's always bad when you see one hand coming up. He had slid out there and hit that wet oil on that floor and wiped out the first row ringside. And I'll tell you one more, and then we'll get off this subject. The biggest fuck-ups. In Memphis, entrances were a big deal back in the old days.
Oh, yeah.
And Lawler started it. He came out on a white horse, and he was lowered from the ceiling. And, he had all these elaborate entrances. Well, one night they had a 10-man tag team match. It was going to be Jackie Fargo, Stan Lane, and Steve Kern, the original Fabulous One, and his team, the Fabulous Ones, teaming up with Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler to go against 5 of Jimmy Hart's heels. And they even promoted on the Memphis Wrestling Show that Saturday morning, said, wait till you see the entrances, folks, because that was a big deal back then. And so I remember that I think they even flipped a coin as to what order the baby faces would come out in, but the heels are standing there in the ring waiting, and we're all in the back watching. And the Lawler comes out. I think he was either riding a white horse or being carried on his throne. And here come Fargo and the Fabulous Ones in a stretch limousine playing their rock and roll music with the spotlights. And Dundee had chosen a motorcycle.
Oh.
And once again, a spotlight came into play. He started out, and Jared had told him, now, Bill, be careful with that thing, right? Oh, don't worry, mate. So the music,
cue the Australian accent.
Yeah, don't worry, mate. It'll be fine. I can ride well, he could ride a motorcycle if he had the power of sight, but once again, a spotlight came into play. As he revs up and starts coming down the aisle on this motorcycle in the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum, once again, the spotlight hit him in the eyes and he couldn't see and he lost control and hit a wet spot and slid. And from where all of us in the back, all the heels on the heel side were watching, it looked like people were dying, right? Because he wiped out and they were playing Wipeout. That was his entrance music.
Oh, no.
He wiped out in that motorcycle and slid up under the front row, and you just saw women just fucking flying and people screaming, and he wiped out. Fortunately, nobody was hurt badly, but he wiped out the whole front row, and he got up, and then they had the 10-man tag, and there was like 9,000 people in the building, and then the limousine was Jerry Jarrett's. He had ridden down there, and Sputnik Monroe's son, Bubba, was his limo driver at the time. And Dundee had ridden, because he was the booker, I believe, at the time, down with Jerry Jarrett from Nashville. So on the way back, Jerry Jarrett got in the back and locked the door and made Dundee right up front with Bubba Monroe. And about halfway to Nashville after the matches, Dundee made Bubba pull over, and he got out and he was knocking on the door, and Jerry Jarrett wouldn't let him in. He didn't talk to him for several days after that.
But he went ahead and wrestled the match, and he wasn't hurt?
Oh, yeah, you had to have the match. I don't know if he was hurt or not, but he wasn't going to sell it publicly.